Using splines in Unity 3D. Unity is a platform generally used for game design. It's also used for architecture and other things such as that. And it's really good for the 3D software that people like to make. So I'm going to go over splines for you guys today, and I gotta ask, what is a spline? Well, simply, it's just a special line. It allows the developer to make any advanced curves and lines for many different purposes. You might notice some video game splines, such as with Mafia. Mafia, for example, is a good example of it, because you can see that these lines are how the traffic moves through a city that they've generated. If we wanted to make a spline using Unity, we're going to be using C#, which is my preferred language here. You would first need to be able to make a line in the editor in Unity. So in the editor, you should be able to just see a basic graph. And with this graph, there wouldn't be anything on it except for the points on the map. And we're going to try and make this real quick. So this requires that you make an object. In this case, I'm going to make one called myLine, which is just an empty game object with no positions in the space. Now that we have an object, we need to give it a script, and we need to make sure it's for the editor. That way that the editor can be shown to us. So my first script is a line, and my second script I'm going to make is a line inspector. We'll need to add a few libraries to the code in the editor, such as the Unity editor and the line inspector script. This is very important, otherwise you won't be able to see any of the positions and splines you're making. In the line script, we need to make a few points to be used to make points, because every good line has at least 2 points. In this case, I'm making a vector of 3, and I'm making 4 points. That way I can make 3 lines. I could loop it, but I'm just going to make it pretty easy to kind of make that straight curve. We will assign my line to a line in the line inspector script. So it will look like this. The line, my line, is now targeted as a line. And we're going to be using a private function known as on-screen GUI. This is so that we can see on the editor in the Unity project what's going on. So now that we have these, we need to assign the points to our positions and vectors. It should look something like this. We're going to give it a color and a handler so that we can, edit it as we're in there. We're going to use a white line because that looks pretty good against a dark background. Next, we need to add some checks. So the checking is basically like an update. It allows us to check when and where it's going to change. This is all taking place to check when the point is moved, and we got to assign the my line to its position, depending if it's 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then once we do that, we've declared all 4 of them. We should have a line in the editor. And I've put mine in these kind of positions, and I can move the green and red at any rate I like, which is kind of nice. It will look something similar to this, which I should be able to move up and down, left and right, all these things like that. But that's not exactly a spline. What we need to do is actually make a curve. And the way we do that is by making a Bezier curve. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. And doing a Bezier curve, you have 2 options. We could first make thousands of points and put them close together and incrementally make a curve, which I don't recommend. Or we could have the computer make as many points as we need to make it to make it look convincing as a curve. So we're going to be using something called a lerp, which is standing for linear interpolation. When it's used in computer science, though, it's usually called as a lerp. Don't ask me why. I guess we are lazy, and that's the reason. Anyways, if we had a starting position and end position, we kind of want to start curving, not when we get here, but somewhere in the middle and come back down. So just like the line, we need to make a curve object and give it a Bezier curve script. And we're also going to make a few other scripts, such as the inspector, just like with the line, and just a Bezier for the points. So first we make some points dynamically with an array. The reset function will just basically give us a straight arrow that you can manipulate pretty nicely. And get point to here will actually find the points that we're looking for. So we're going to use 3 points in this case. And we got to make sure that we're using the editor. And we got to include the editor library. And we're going to be using the Bezier curve for the custom editor. So we need to declare a few things for the curve. There needs to be a curve, obviously, a handle rotation, because you should be able to rotate dynamically whatever way you like, and we're going to give them about 10 steps. The rest of this is similar to the line. You basically declare points, you draw a color, you make it a way that you can iterate through it to look for it around. And then lastly, with our Bezier script, you should be able to see that we'll need to lerp, and then we'll need to lerp a lerp, which sounds really funny, but basically the more lerping you do, the more curvy it looks. Cool, huh? Right? Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Now we should be able to see a curve, and it should look something like this. And if you wanted to see something crazy, you could just keep adding curves and curves and curves and get anything you like. If you'd like to see more about this, you could always check it out on this tutorial I found. Thank you very much.